This has been a wild adventure trying to find out President Obama's presence in the Valley. Valley Black Talk Radio, California Advocate, and AMP-TV have been staying on this since the last 2 weeks. Luckily, we have Kim McCoy, who's on the front line, literally inside of the airport where President Barack Obama is arriving. So we'll be able to have that inside story, inside scoop of what he found. So stay tuned for more. This is Julia Dudley Najieb. Interesting enough that we can see that no one got to see President Barack Obama here in Fresno. And I have to say, on AMP-TV side, it was actually much easier for us when we went to the White House on the presence of his own ground. It was much easier for us to even get access. Luckily, we have Kim McCoy, who is on the inside, who's able to tell us a little bit more. And we just got through talking to one of the commentators who tried to see, wasn't much to see. It was so far, and you really had to have a long lens to even see anything. And people are basically walking back from the location. We see some of the kids that are walking back from the visit of President Barack Obama. Some people were disappointed, and others had a certain excitement to President Barack Obama's visit. And we'll be talking to one of those happy campers right now. I'm here with Denise, who's one of our citizens here in the Valley. And she was here supporting President Barack Obama and his visit to Fresno, California. Tell us about that event, how that was for you.
I'm elated. It was very, very exciting just to be here because it's an historical event. Of course, today is Valentine's Day, so we want to send some love across the world to say Happy Valentine's Day to everyone, and to just celebrate the wonderful occasion.
Did you get to see him up close, up front, and personal?
I wish I could have, and maybe next time you and I will be able to do that, but not this time because I think it was a very kind of spirited moment, impromptu thing, and I was a little disappointed about that.
A lot of people were. So what can we say to those people that didn't get to see him up close and personal, and about the disappointment?
My hopes and my sentiments would be that hopefully he can come back again to Fresno. Fresno, I believe the population is about 500,000 people, which is a lot of people, which is
almost 500,000.
That's right. And we have a voice, and we have opinions, and we have similar opinions, and then there may be some different opinions, even about the drought.
And when we're talking about the drought, that is a serious issue, and that is one of the main reasons that President Barack Obama came out here. What would you say your opinion is about the drought and the seriousness of the issue?
I think the water issue is serious regardless whether you're talking about water purification, if you're talking about water in terms of just the quality of it, it's essential. I think also we know that Fresno feeds the nation and possibly the world. We have, again, in terms of agriculture and produce, we do the most major mass production in terms of distribution. So definitely we need to have healthy, clean water to feed the world.
The drought is one of many issues here in Central California, and I know people say, where is Fresno? But yet, it's an important place here in Fresno. We're exact center of California.
That's right. We are, what they had projected at one time, we would be the megatropolis. That we would bridge the gap between Southern California, which is 3 hours south of Fresno, and Northern California, which is San Francisco, which is about 3 hours, again, north of here. So if you're talking about those dynamics and including the high-speed rail, there's a lot of people here, a lot of businesses that can be developed here, education, just a lot of programs that can be enhanced.
Some of the other problems and issues that we have here in Central California deals with poverty, being the second in the nation. What would you say to that?
I think it's unfortunate. Poverty is poverty. People struggle. I've had my own hardships. I'm sure other people have because of the recession. Housing, real estate, that issue, we can go on and on. It's like a chain reaction or a snowball effect. So I think to say we need to address the poverty issue is an understatement. We need help, we need resources, we need funding that would include all 5 institutions, educational, political, and of course the legal institution, whatever we can get the help in to help the people.
And so we have so many difficulties that we hope that President Barack Obama would address, and we know that he can't do everything, he can't do it all. But if he were standing right here in front of you, or perhaps watching this broadcast, what would you ask of him, or what would you want to say to him?
I would say on behalf of people and children and students that I've taught over 20 years of education, that I would hope he can come back and connect with some of these young people. I would say I have a heart for 25 and under. It's historical, and they need to have a hands-on experience with the president in terms of their projected careers, what fields they should go into. I think he could be a powerful influence and voice in a positive way. I think the church communities need to embrace him and pray with him as well, and for him, and bridge the community gap.
Thank you, Denise. We thank you for commenting with AMP TV today. And this is Dudley Najieb with AMP TV. Just wrapping up the visit by President Barack Obama. Maybe we didn't get to see him, but it is well known that his presence was here in the Valley and did have an effect on all of us. Signing out, Dudley Najieb. Honoring America's 2014 Black History Icons, brought to you by Seven Angels Thrift Store and More, 1464 Fresno Street, Fraser Realty on 7643 North Ingram, Suite 105, and Insight Design and Print. I'm a woman who came from the cotton fields of the South. From there, I was promoted to the wash tub, and from there, I promoted myself into the business of manufacturing hair goods and preparations. Don't sit down and wait for the opportunities to come. Get up and make them. Madam C.J. Walker. Madam C.J. Walker was an American entrepreneur and philanthropist regarded as the first female self-made millionaire in America to market a hugely successful line of beauty and hair products for Black women. We salute you, Madam C.J. Walker. Also brought to you by Cowboy Joe's Smoke Shop, 1468 Fresno Street, Cafe Aroma Coffee House, 550 North Fulton, and the African American Historical Culture Museum of the San Joaquin Valley, 1857 Fulton Street.
Very exciting news. AMP TV has now partnered with the California Advocate newspaper and Valley Black Talk Radio to bring you ONME, all in one media, one place, one price. Do business with us, you won't regret it. Hey, it's on me.
First of all, I want to thank Joe and Maria Del Bosque and their beautiful daughters for showing Governor Brown and me around their farm. Joe's got an incredible story. The son of a migrant farm worker. Farm work is how he put himself through college. He's been a farmer for most of his life. He started by going around to other folks' land and saying, I'll grow some cantaloupes for you, and as long as you pay me for what we produce. And over the years was able to develop this amazing business, and not only started growing cantaloupes, but almonds and cherries and all kinds of other good stuff. There are three things that make farming work in California, according to Joe: soil, water, and people. And in the little free time they have, Joe and Maria work to improve the health and safety of farm workers. There are a lot of people who are dependent on him year-round, and a lot of people who work seasonally with Joe and Maria, and their livelihoods depend on the functioning of these farms. But today we're here to talk about the resource that's keeping more and more California farmers and families up at night, and that is water, or the lack of it. As anybody in this state could tell you, California is living through some of its driest years in a century. Right now, almost 99% of California is drier than normal. And the winter snowpack that provides much of your water far into the summer is much smaller than normal. And we could see that as we were flying in. Jim and Barbara and Diane and I were flying over the mountain ranges and could see, even though there was a little bit of snow that just came in the last couple of days, that it's nothing like it is normally. Now, while drought in regions outside the West is expected to be less severe than in other years, California is our biggest economy. California is our biggest agricultural producer. So what happens here matters to every working American, right down to the cost of food that you put on your table. And that's why last month, Governor Brown declared a state of emergency, directing state officials to prepare for drought conditions. And together, our administrations launched a coordinated response. Secretary Vilsack, who is here today, declared 27 counties as primary natural disaster areas, making farmers and ranchers eligible for emergency loans. And over the past 2 weeks, his team at USDA and Mike Connor's team at the Interior Department have released new funds for conservation and irrigation, announced investments to upgrade water infrastructure, and partnered with California to stretch the water supply as much as possible. Today I want to announce new actions that we can take together to help these hard-working folks. First, we're accelerating $100 million of funds from the Farm Bill that I signed last week to help ranchers. For example, if their fields have dried up, this is going to help them feed their livestock. Second, last week we announced $20 million to help hard-hit communities, and today we're announcing up to $15 million more for California and other states that are in extreme drought. Third, I'm directing the Interior Department to use its existing authorities, where appropriate, to give water contractors flexibility to meet their obligations. And fourth, I'm directing all federal facilities in California to take immediate steps to curb their water use, including a moratorium on water usage for new non-essential landscaping projects. A bipartisan bill written by your outstanding senators, Dianne Feinstein and Barbara Boxer, as well as your own outstanding representative and almond farmer, Jim Costa, includes similar ideas. And I hope that Congress considers the legislation that they've crafted soon, work through some of the concerns that have been expressed. Let's make sure that we're getting some short-term relief to folks, but also long-term certainty for people who are going to be harmed by this drought. Now, these actions will help, but they're just the first step. We have to be clear. A changing climate means that weather-related disasters like droughts, wildfires, storms, floods are potentially going to be costlier, and they're going to be harsher. Droughts have obviously been a part of life out here in the West since before any of us were around, and water politics in California have always been complicated. But scientific evidence shows that a changing climate is going to make them more intense. Scientists will debate whether a particular storm or drought reflects patterns of climate change, but one thing that is undeniable is that changing temperatures influence drought in at least 3 ways. Number one, more rain falls in extreme downpours, so more water is lost to runoff than captured for use. Number two, more precipitation in the mountains falls as rain rather than snow, so rivers run dry earlier in the year. Number three, soil and reservoirs lose more water to evaporation year-round. What does all this mean? Unless and until we do more to combat carbon pollution that causes climate change, this trend's going to get worse. And the hard truth is, even if we do take action on climate change, carbon pollution has built up in our atmosphere for decades. The planet is slowly going to keep warming for a long time to come. So we're going to have to stop looking at these disasters as something to wait for. We've got to start looking at these disasters as something to prepare for, to anticipate, to start building new infrastructure, to start having new plans to calibrate the baseline that we're working off of. And everybody, from farmers to industry to residential areas to the north of California and the south of California and every place in between, as well as the entire western region, are going to have to start rethinking how we approach water for decades to come. And as I said when I was meeting with the town hall group, we can't think of this simply as a zero-sum game. It can't just be a matter of there's going to be less and less water, so I'm going to grab more and more of a shrinking share of water. Instead, what we have to do is all come together and figure out how are we all going to make sure that agricultural needs, urban needs, industrial needs, environmental and conservation concerns are all addressed. And that's going to be a big project, but it's one that I'm confident we can do. Part of the climate action plan that I put forward last summer is designed to protect critical sectors of our economy and prepare the United States for the effects of climate change that we're just not going to be able to avoid. So last week, for example, the USDA announced 7 new climate hubs to help farmers and ranchers adapt their operations to a changing climate, one of which will be at UC Davis, focused on resilience for California's specialty crops. The budget I sent to Congress, the budget that I send to Congress next month will include $1 billion in new funding for new technologies to help communities prepare for a changing climate, set up incentives to build smarter, more resilient infrastructure, and finally, my administration will work with tech innovators and launch new challenges under our Climate Data Initiative, focused initially on rising sea levels and their impacts on the coast, but ultimately focused on how all these changes in weather patterns are going to have an impact up and down the United States, not just on the coast, but inland as well, and how do we start preparing for that? And that has to be work that we do together. This cannot be a partisan endeavor. You know, one of the great things about that town hall that I just came out of, not everybody agreed on anything, except people did agree that we can't keep on doing business as usual. That's what people did understand, that there has to be a sense of urgency about this. And issues like the federal government helping states to build infrastructure, to adapt and ensure economic development, and that families and workers are able to prosper, there's nothing new about that. We just saw a photograph of President Kennedy and current Governor Brown's dad building some of the aquifers that have been so important to the economy of the state for decades. If we were able to do that then, we should be able to do it now. It's just a matter of us making sure that we're not putting politics ahead of trying to get things working. Our work with Governor Brown and his administration is going to continue. Californians have all had to come together and already make sacrifices, big and small, to help your neighbors and your state get through this. The good news is California is always on the cutting edge. Already you use water far more efficiently than you did decades ago. You do it smarter. Joe was explaining just how this drip irrigation that you see in this region has made many of these farms much more efficient when it comes to water utilization. And so we know that we can innovate and meet this challenge, but we've got to start now. We can't wait. So I want to make sure that every Californian knows, whether you're NorCal, SoCal, here in the Central Valley, your country is going to be there for you when you need it this year, but we're going to have to all work together in the years to come to make sure that we address this challenge and leave this incredible land and bounty to our children and our grandchildren in at least as good shape as we found it. So thank you very much, everybody, for the great work that you guys do. And I've already told the governor, as well as all your outstanding representatives here, that our administration is going to stay on this, and we are prepared to cooperate with local, state officials throughout And that's not just in California, because we're going to see some similar problems in places like Colorado, Nevada, some of the neighboring western states. And so part of the conversation is also going to have to be a regional conversation. But this is something that I'm very committed to. We're going to make sure to get it done, working together.
Cameras are set up, and as we're filming, we see all the local stations that are here covering the information for President Barack Obama. And he will be arriving at the airport and will be leaving to go back on the Air Force One. He is arriving, according to Kim McCoy, who is inside. There'll be 5 helicopters, and he will be in helicopter number 1. Kim McCoy, our correspondent, is inside, getting some of those inside shots. And as you know, security is tight for reasons, of course. We're talking about President Barack Obama, our President of the United States, visiting the Valley here as a president for the first time. And we'll go over a speech of what he's going to be doing for the Central Valley and talking about federal support due to our drought situation. He was able to explore what is happening. He did come from a Fireball town hall meeting. And as Ken McCoy is reporting to me inside, he's looking in binoculars on a platform to signal me. He's telling me the Air Force One pilot is ready with the step ladder, so we are trying to capture the same image. Kim McCoy is telling me from the inside, the media is certainly anxious. It is quiet inside. As we see the taillights to Air Force One. And no flights are allowed right now in the sky because he says there is obviously, when the president flying, they have a restricted air flight zone, air zone. So no flights are allowed right now to come to or fro the Fresno International Airport until the president has left the entire premises of this location. Okay, now they've opened the traveling media door at the tail of Air Force One. And the president does have a traveling team that is with him. Media is now turning on the portable lights as Kim McCoy is reporting to me live on what is happening, which is, of course, some indication that the president is soon landing. And reporting live, not only has the media turned on the portable lights, now the security vehicles are starting up. Second pilot is standing next to the presidential stairway. Okay, cameras have now turned west, so they are coming. They're showing up. This is reported live by Ken McCoy, who's letting us know that they are. So at any moment, we should be able to see the helicopter that's going to land. And I'm told there's 5 helicopters, and helicopter number 1 is where he would be landing. Okay, we're probably hearing the approaching of the 5 helicopters, and can't tell which direction yet they're coming from. Okay, again, we can hear the helicopters coming in. Again, there's 5 of them. The president is there's one. That might be the one that he's landing. I was told helicopter number 1. And that could be helicopter number 1 that is landing right now. See a second helicopter right behind it. I don't see the other 3. Shot Kim McCoy's inside, and he's getting the deep lens shot of the president. We're on the outside, and we'll be reporting to you live his experience as well on the ONME Sunday morning show. We are now focusing on them walking in to the airplane. Air Force One. Just to make sure. Now, ironically, we were told helicopter 1, but at this point I have no idea which helicopter is helicopter 1. And with Kim McCoy's, he'll be able to let us know. Now you see a lot of people walking towards us, from media to traveling media, entourage, Secret Service. And to ensure the best security, this is nothing out of the norm. Every president will have tight security. So this is to be expected. As darkness is falling, it's getting a little bit hazy. So you see the media who had to be screened. Anyone that's inside there had to get clearance days before. As we were saying, he came from Fireball Town Hall meeting, was able to tour a local farm in Fireball. He was also attending Los Banos and discussing the federal help that he could give to California, which is right now in a serious drought phase. Okay, we're watching Air Force. Yes.
Air Force One is about to take off. The wind is blowing us right now. They phoned it. It's a little noisy, but Air Force One is on the tarmac rolling. Everybody is aboard Air Force One.
Okay, keep talking because you're on live. So I'm filming Air Force One, getting ready to leave.
Well, it's a little noisy out here, but Air Force One has just located turned south on the Fresno terminal tarmac.
Okay.
South right now to get on the freeway. We're heading towards Palm Springs for a dinner engagement with the King of Jordan. The president had the appointment earlier, but extended the appointment for the situation with the Fresno and the Central National drought condition.
Okay.
Air Force One is being held right now by Secret Service security. They are making sure that there is no mishap on Air Force One. Air Force One has now turned east to start the ascent. It has not fully jetted off yet, but the new speed is actually filming. Lights are on. The tail is on. On the tail of Air Force One, you see it. It's Air Force One number 29000 on the tail of Air Force One. The Secret Service is still on a holding pattern. The Army is still on a holding pattern, as we see. A phone line, the Secret Service is still set. Air Force One is still traveling east right now on the airport runway. The lights are flashing. The B-22 helicopters that you hear in the back are support materials for the president. So that is why there's so much noise in Air Force One and B-22 helicopters that are vertical flying helicopters, very similar to the ones that you saw on the film Avatar. So again, Air Force One is traveling eastbound right now on on the runway, getting ready to turn west to the city. So we're excited to be here, still here, filming. There's still quite a few things to get. The lights are off for the security of the pilot, or the double pilot. But before the president got on the plane, the chandeliers were turned on in the private quarters of Air Force One. So we're excited to be here on the red carpet, on the runway, of course. But this is exciting. This is very, very exciting. It doesn't happen every year at all. It hasn't happened in the last 8 years. So again, for Fresno to see this, in the Central San Joaquin Valley, lost battle, my old stomping ground. So this is very exciting for the president to be here on President's Weekend, Valentine's Day, and Black History Month.
So Ken, we saw several helicopters that were kind of surrounding the perimeter. That's always something you see with any president, right? That's just the norm of things when you're the president.
Julia, I'm sorry, your voice broke with this helicopter noise in the background. Can you repeat that?
We saw several helicopters as they were kind of surrounding the perimeter before the president landed, so it was really hard to see who was who. Were you able to capture which helicopter he came through? Because it seemed about 5 or 6 helicopters seemed to come through.
Yes, there was the presidential helicopter, Marine One, eight were in the other, and then the traveling press were in the other B-22. So the B-22s are the helicopters that are the vertical flying helicopters, and of course the president, Marine One, and his eight were in Marine Two at this particular point.
Okay, and one last question before we get hopefully we'll be able to talk to you from the outside. Since we're on the outside, we've been recording from the helicopters to the Air Force One sitting there awaiting the president's arrival. We saw quite a few people that were on the tarmac. Would that be all of the press? Was that all of you, or was that the traveling media that we saw?
Okay, I'm sorry I didn't hear all of your questions, but I know there was a lot of concern, and as we transition Air Force One is about to ascend, Julia.
I see it lifting off. We are watching it take off.
It is taking off right now. It's got it over. There's Air Force One. You can hear the noise. The sail is up. You hear the street. It's about to be done.
It is taking off. We're on the outside. We've got a close up. Keep talking, Ken. Now, Ken, I hear a whole bunch of helicopters on your end.
Right now, that is the noise, Julia. It's actually trying to cut off your signal. Marine One has been moved to go into what they call a C-130.
Okay.
So Secret Service is kind of looking at everybody trying to say, okay, it's kind of time for y'all to leave. They can kind of secure, they're going to have C-130s that actually carry some of the presidential equipment. Will be moved over to this area.
I see.
Yes, but the B-22s are moving right now.
Were they? Okay. Wow.
So Marine One is actually moving right now. So that is the noise that you hear in the background.
Okay, because we hear a lot of noise, and we see another helicopter that's taken off. We're near the light post here where we're at. There is I guess the light that lets. Okay, go ahead.
I'm sorry, Julia, but Jim Compton here talks to one of the news media, and the president's technical liaisons and the Army and their Secret Service are right in front of me shaking hands. Like, basically, a good job, well done, with some logistical briefcases they have in their hands right now.
Okay.
And again, it was a major part of Jim Compton to actually get the president to come. He actually picked the president right before the State of the Union address to make it happen. So I apologize for the noise in the background, but this is what happens when you cover the president of the United States.
Right. So there's quite a bit of noise where we're at as well. And boy, are these helicopters loud.
Okay. I can tell you, Georgia, I can tell you the Marine One and the second solo helicopter that's up there lift off. The other two, B-22s are about to lift off right now. So you're going to have 4 helicopters take off all at the same time. Very, very shortly here. Just moving on.
Okay. Well, we look forward to talking to you from the outside, and so we will await you, so just text me and AMP TV will stand by. As we've been reporting live with Kim McCoy, who's on the inside track with the President Barack Obama visit here to Central Valley. So stay tuned. This is Julia Dudley Najieb with AMP TV Now, breaking news, and I'm with Ken McCoy, and this is one of our correspondents, our host, and one of our producers who was behind the lines, like right there, while the action was going on. Ken, how did that feel? What was that like?
All I can say is it was totally historic, being President's Weekend, Black President, first time in Fresno, so to be a part of it, to document it, it's been amazing. It was an amazing day to watch the whole presidency in terms of the arrival, the departure, Marine One, his staff, the media pool, all come to Fresno, California on an issue that affects all of us, but at the same time, I still look at the historical part of it. No matter how you look at it, it will go down in the annals of history.
People look at these issues being political, but was this really a political issue? Does this really have to do with the Democratic president and a Republican Party? Is that what this was about today?
No, this was a Central California humanity issue, okay? We're short on water. It's a big issue, and all they need to do, and what I believe they will do, is basically free up some money to divert some water. I mean, it is a resource, so we can't downplay the seriousness of the drought, but at the same time, let's understand something. It's also time to start talking politics, so people use certain things to use it as the foreground. And again, let's remember, he is the president. He's still the executive in chief. He is the commander in chief. That's the way that is. But he did have to show that there is some camaraderie with the political parties.
And that's important, being that this is really supposed to be a nonpartisan issue. Right. When you're talking about a drought that affects everybody in the state of California.
There's no question. And of course, he had a chance to travel to Los Banos, which is my stomping grounds. Again, the San Luis Reservoir specifically. Matter of fact, historically, my dad helped put that reservoir in years ago. So now to bring that all into perspective, it's kind of historical for me and monumental at the same time. But again, nonpartisan issue. Water is a commodity, and I'm just glad that he came to show his presence as the president.
What's so ironic is people said, Fireball, why Fireball? And that's where the town hall meeting was held, and we got to listen to that live. But why not Fireball?
Why not? It's the central San Joaquin Valley. Again, there's the delta, there's the duct and the waterways in that area that flows all the way through the San Joaquin Valley, and it has some of the best fishing we could ever think of right there. People don't understand that water is that much of an issue, but when you talk drought, they still didn't understand how severe it was until all of this media brought it to the president.
And speaking of media, we were told that there was a strong media presence inside what was happening. Can you kind of describe the ambience of that for us?
Well, of course, you know the president has a traveling media pool that travels on the rear of Air Force One. But we call it local media, but they weren't all local. You had San Francisco, Bakersfield, San Luis Obispo. I mean, the valley, every major city that dealt with this water issue that's dealing with it, their media was represented. So you had radio and television and print all represented, and there were no disagreements. Everybody was ready to cover the story.
And you were ready to cover that story. What would you say about the footage, being there and being able to get the footage, even though you were not close to the president, you were still there, you were still in the audience, you still got that shot?
Actually, my point of view was when he walked off of Air Force One, literally looking in my direct direction. So, of course, doing what I do, getting that spot, you do jockey for a position. That's what it's all about. But at the same time, you're professional. And doing this, you have to maintain your professionalism no matter what you do. So to be there, to see him, and there's a couple of very unique photos that I did get. One in particular I could talk about is the president waving, he's in the front, Jim Costa waving, he's second, and Barbara Boxer waving, and she's third. And there was hierarchy. It was amazing. But I'm not saying that my work is amazing, but I'm just glad that I was there to capture that shot.
Capturing the moment, right? Here in Fresno, California, the Central Valley had a treat today. And it didn't really matter what party you were about, because it's the issue that we shall all be concerned about. We have hot summers here in San Joaquin Valley, and looking at those hot summers and not having any water could be a whole nother drastic issue.
Again, you see me with my water here, not promoting this water, but I'm promoting water and the drought issue that we're dealing with. And I'm just glad they brought it to the forefront so that we can discuss it. There can be some issues resolved. Parties can come together, and then let's move on. But again, let's not forget that this is Black History Month, President's Weekend, Valentine's Day, and the President of the United States visited Fresno, California, and we were there to capture it.
And last question I have that is not as serious, but just as so people can understand what the security measures were like. Can you kind of describe that experience for us?
Secret Service, Marine, wire scan, double check, lay your equipment on the ground, take everything out of your pocket. But that's America. That's what we pay for. We pay for them to do due diligence. So yes, the point of it is it's safety for America, because the eyes of America came to Fresno, California today.
Kim McCoy, we'd like to thank you for giving us that one-on-one reporting, and you'll see that live as we were on the ground getting the shot, trying to keep that camera steady to get that zoom lens.
I apologize for yelling when the helicopters, the V-22s, I'm yelling, so I apologize if anybody said, why is that man screaming? I wasn't screaming, it was just loud, but it was very cool at the same time. Historic.
And we appreciate Kim McCoy being there for AMP TV for the historic moment. And also being there for ONME. ONME is a collaboration of Valley Black Talk Radio, the California Advocate newspaper, and AMP TV. So you'll be seeing more. We'll be able to see more stuff even in the California Advocate?
Well, also in the California Advocate, but at the same time on the inside, people were asking me about ONME inside, so that's the way it is.
That's the way it is. ONME, AMP TV, Valley Black Talk Radio, and the California Advocate. We were reporting live, collaborating together.
African Americans buying power, 8% of Fresno County. ONME is the one agency where you can find out what people watch, what they read, and what they listen to. Check out ONME.